weirdos and queers who forget about struggling to adult. We're struggling to human.
At least that's what everyone's telling us.
You're right.
Per usual. Hey, I'm Angela, bringing sense to the conversation. From here on my soapbox, I shed light on the things society doesn't want you to talk about. You know, the real shit that matters: intersectional thinking, sexuality, queerness, neurodiversity, consent, and the fact that self-care is bullshit. For me, it's all about community and how we can care for each other.
And I'm Molly, giving a big fork you to cookie cutter solutions. I help burnt out, busy as fuck, neurodivergent, and queer entrepreneurs make shit happen by providing out-of-the-box solutions and sustainable systems to grow your biz. For me, it's all about doing what makes sense for your brain.
Enough with the chit-chat. Let's get to it.
Keep listening, and together we'll explore the drudgery, dreams, and all that shit in between. Get ready to call bullshit on what everyone's saying you should be doing,
as we navigate the spectrum between what really matters to you and the shit keeping you from it.
Good morning, everybody.
Unless hello.
Part of the world, and I guess good evening or hello tomorrow.
I mean, it's like the middle of the night right now in Australia. My Australia peeps are it is not good meeting time for us right now. At 12:30 my time. So at 12:30 my time, it is 6:30 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we impromptu took last week off because I'm really bad about keeping track of school schedules, evidently. But I had come to Angela and I was like, Angela, we could totally record with my kiddo at home. And Angela was like, have you lost your mind? That is not happening. No. And the next day I woke up and I was like, Angela was right. That was a bad idea. What's wrong with me? Oh, I remember. I've been taking care of a kiddo nonstop for a couple hours. And we were talking about being burnt out and constantly accommodating people and all those things. And then we kind of went radio silent, which happens. I mean, all the neurodivergent people who go radio silent on their friends because they still care, but they're having too many problems with other things, raise your hand.
Hands raised. All the hands are raised. Mine aren't because I'm playing with things right now, but
yes. Oh, playing with your stim mags.
I am playing with my stim mags because I got my stim mags and then I got other stim mags. Yes.
All the stim mags have arrived. Okay. And so we were having these conversations about, we went radio silent. And then I was driving my car. I promise this story has a point for all of you that are like, just get to the point. I was driving my car and I had this like very full body feeling of, you need to check on Angela. And so I clicked the Marco Polo button and I was like, hi, my body told me I'm supposed to check on you. So I'm checking on you. You okay? And I got a message back. And that triggered all of the things in my body that just said, I'll tell you about it later, can't talk. Or on Tuesday or Wednesday, like something. And I was just like, oh. And I jokingly said to my partner, it's never good when your neurodivergent friend replies to your, I need to check on you for some unknown reason message with, I'll tell you later.
I love how you add this voice to it that I didn't have.
I know. That's how I felt it. And so, and then my response after that was, and you get one word to respond. And so I just responded with okay, which was the appropriate response. Angela said later.
Absolutely.
But so what this brings me to today's topic. We in the neurodivergent community talk all the time about like the harmfulness of functioning labels and how, all neurodivergent people need support in some capacity. And we talk about it all the time. And a lot of folks in the neurodivergent community do get accommodations. They get a lot of accommodations from other neurodivergent humans who understand why they need accommodations. And part of me feels like I'm sounding whiny here, but that's the truth is, what happens when the accommodators need accommodations? Nothing.
Oh,
Accommod
oh no, something happens.
well,
Something
the
happens when we need accommodations. This has been my experience well before. Now, obviously, I've known for most of my working life that I'm ADHD. Um, and I've lived in that brain for a very long time.
Mhm.
I let that brain help me survive.
Right.
Um, and um, something that I would always say is I'm constantly having to handle people with kid gloves because that's their communication style and
Mhm.
they need 20 minutes to talk about something that takes 2. And anytime I'm not smiling and happy and okay and being able to do all of the things, there's something really wrong and I have to engage in even more social stuff that I can't do. So something definitely happens when we get to that point where we need some adjustments to be made. It is not purposefully, but
Mhm.
there is definitely shame in that because it's like, what do you mean you can't help me? What do you mean you can't do this? What do you mean you don't want to have a conversation? Is everything okay? Are you depressed? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And it's
Right.
like, can you just step off? Just, yes, I'm passionate about this. Can you just back off? Can you stop talking to me, please?
Yeah, I meant no accommodations are made. Nothing happens.
I understand. I totally understand that that's what you mean, but I couldn't let the nothing happens go.
To be fair, in my lead on, I meant the accommodators do not get accommodated. And this is exactly the point that and Angela just explain the story of like what's happening. Um and we kind of have two different sides of that story we can work into today. Me and the like having neurodivergent people at home and being the person that everybody relies on, and Angela in more like work roles and ways that is draining and defeating. And there's like 3,000 different directions I can go here, and I'm trying to have like a guided question and it's just not working. Um but like we're not saying like by asking for accommodations as the accommodator, like when the accommodator is like, everybody back the fuck up, I'm about to explode, like my little kiddo's house in Minecraft when it's built from TNT and the fire is started. Okay,
Yep.
that is the explosion that happens. um so there's usually a warning, back the fuck up, about to explode. um Most of the time, I would say this is, you can say if this is true for you or not. We are not asking people to believe they aren't neurodivergent when they accommodate. We are not asking people for things that are unreasonable or extended or forever. We're asking typically for, at this moment in time, I need you to assess that I am not okay, that my flavor packet of neurospicy is different from your flavor packet. And I need you to address my not issues, my neurospiciness in the appropriate way that my neurospiciness needs to be treated,
Yep.
which is something that the accommodator is doing for everybody else. So what is actually being said is,
Because
I
most of the time we can
yes, and most of the time we can. And
and
I
we
feel like
want to.
absolutely. It's actually like I find like accommodators tend to have like a special interest of like communication and relationships.
Stop it, Molly.
What?
Yes, this is true. I'm
Okay.
just really called out right now.
I feel like I'm calling myself out. I feel like it's an equal communication here. I I think the other thing for the accommodators, and honestly, I'm speaking from my own experience and people that I've seen in similar boats, is We value, respect, and treasure the people in our lives so much that we accommodate for them a lot of times because we know they need that to be successful, and we're happy to do that. And what we're asking for is for them to value and respect us in the same way that we respect them. Because when we are not accommodated at our worst, it does not feel like we are respected or accommodated or respected or deserving of that accommodation.
Yeah.
Whether that is the intention behind it, I am not saying that that is what is intended. But
I don't think
that's
that it ever is intended.
no, but that's what it feels like a lot of
Right.
times is I only respect you when you can do something for me is how it feels.
Yep.
And we were kind of having a conversation. Now I'm about to use a term that we do not approve of anymore personally. I don't approve of it personally anymore. But when before I knew that this was a bad word to use, my partner was diagnosed with Asperger's, which obviously that is just autism. We know that. But the phrase I used to say is, I don't know where the Asperger's starts and the Asperger's ends and the asshole start. Why can't I say it correctly anymore? Now, because I know I'm not supposed to say it. Now I'm saying it 300
Right,
times. But
because that
essentially,
term does not come out of your mouth
no,
very often, right?
no. But essentially, I didn't know when someone was being an asshole or I was being where somebody was just like not understanding the conversation. And I was explaining to Angela, I was like, I feel like when you have two people or a group of people who are all different varieties of neurodivergent, I can't keep taking my ramen noodle references forever. When we have all of these people who are different neurodivergents, we all have our individual based off of how our brain functions, perception of communication, how people interact, all of these different things. So you have these two people, and I'm talking with my hands so much right now, with very differing versions of communication, trying to communicate. Of course, there's going to be some clashing. It's going to feel like somebody's being an asshole sometimes. They aren't. There's
Yeah.
just a big rift in what the two perceptions of communication are.
Right.
And sometimes you have to figure out if you're like, that person's really being an ass right now. Damn it. The conversation needs to be less about like, I feel harmed by this asshole in the confines of communication between two neurodivergent peoples, not like legitly somebody's
Or a
being
neurodivergent,
divergent.
and
And
I would say, neurodiversity encompasses everybody. So it's not
yeah,
necessarily between two ND folks. It's between two people, period.
right.
This
I
really
don't,
fits for that.
yes. But I feel like the question needs to be like, why are they being an ass to me right now? Why do I feel like they're being an ass?
Yep.
And like do a checklist of like, are they showing other signs of like burnout, overwhelm, confusion, frustration? Have I accommodated them recently?
Yep.
Because if they're showing other signs of burnout and all of these things, and you have not been accommodating their way of thinking or processing or all those things, then it's oh, they're not being an asshole.
Right.
They need help. And it's my turn to help them, or I need to find somebody who can help them, because it's okay to say I can't help them, but I need to bring somebody in who can help them, and that's how I can help them.
Yep.
Because I fully acknowledge that not everybody's going to have the capacity to sit and like run through a checklist or you know be quiet but be present. Like not everybody has has those capabilities.
Right.
But
And
bringing
sometimes
somebody
bringing that person in to help them often isn't actually bringing somebody in to do anything for them. It's
right.
leaving them alone
Mm-hmm.
and asking somebody else to support you in the capacity that you need to be supported. um, excuse me. Because if that person is in a state of overwhelm, yes, they might need somebody to come in and step in and help. 9 times out of 10, in my personal case, it's I need everybody to leave me the hell alone because I have something to do and I want to get it done.
Right.
Do not disturb me. Do not disrupt me. Do not take my time. So, of course, knowing what that person needs is helpful because often they're not able to tell you at that point in time or
Mhm.
accept if they're like, just leave me the hell alone,
Right.
you know? Um,
I think
and understanding what that means to them.
and I think instead of coming to them and like, okay, you finally assess that something's off, right? Don't go up to them and be like, "What the fuck? Why are you acting like this?"
Yeah.
Like going up and being like, "Hey, I see that you are having a day. Do you need help or do you need us to leave you alone?"
Yep.
I think that, like, just phrasing the question in a way that gives them two choices, because again, burnout, decision fatigue kind of go hand in hand a lot of times.
Yep.
Um, by giving them two options and then an avenue to leave them alone or to help, um, is is a great solution and an exploration piece. I do want to talk about your user manual though, because I feel like one thing that um, many neurodivergent folks need is contingency plans, understanding kind of a bigger picture of things, understanding how to act in certain situations, giving scripts, giving solutions are all very, very helpful. And I know that you have created a user manual, and I think this is something that um, the exercise might need support for some people to actually complete, but I think it's still a very handy tool for a lot of ND individuals, um, because it really walks through like how you function, how you think, what you need, who you are, how to
Yeah.
support. Um,
Yes, it does. Um, so I want to say that I did not create the leadership. Okay, it's from the leadership blueprint. Um, and I used their Notion template, which has a user manual in it, um, to help me communicate to other people. So we will include that in there. For people, it's really cool. It is from the um, um, hmm, I want to give the name of it, but I can't right now, and I'm not going to look at it while I'm doing it. So we will include it, a link to it for those who would like to find it. Um, if I am able to share that with people and they take the time to look at it, hi, yeah, I'm asking you to take a little bit of time. When I'm not always able to to spend time having a conversation, I'm asking you to take a little bit of time to look over my user manual. My user manual saying things like, I'm direct and to the point, and I prefer that you be direct and to the point. I don't like spending a lot of time having conversations that can be done in 2 minutes. I don't like to spend 20 minutes on those conversations if I don't have to. And I cuss a lot. Like these are things that are in there for people to see. I said shit on a podcast the other day, and the person wasn't very happy that I said shit. It was a live thing, um, because we didn't have a conversation beforehand about that. Um, so anyway, um, it's important that people know these things about me. And one of the things that I'm realizing as I get into more and more meetings, I'm having more and more conversations with a lot of different people, is I have to be very clear right up front. What are the expectations for this meeting? This is how much time I think is going to take us to get to this goal. And if we need more time, we either have to schedule another meeting. Like I can't be going over time, but I don't want to leave this meeting without accomplishing something.
mhm.
That's very uncomfortable for a lot of people to just be direct and upfront and blunt like that. For a lot of people who want to have conversation, they want to ease into with conversation.
Right. Well, and so this is me analyzing people as I love to do. Um, if you haven't noticed yet, I feel like a lot of times people ease into that conversation because they feel unsure about how to act in the next part. And if we're just having soft conversation, they can do that and feel confident. The minute we get into the meat and potatoes of something, that's uncomfortable because they might not be the expert on what you're talking about. And so they don't feel like they can bring something to the table, which is bullshit. Most of the time, if you're at the table, you already have something to say.
Exactly.
So that conversation does not make you look more confident. It does the opposite. Now, if you need to be like, I just need to know everybody's state of mind before we start, then say that. Be like, I don't need to have conversation about, you know, Susie Q's kids, brothers, cousins, left side person's bicycle accident. I don't know why I came up with that, but that's what I came up with. What I really need to know is where everybody's at mentally so that I can correctly assess people. Then say that. Can everybody just give me one sentence about how they're currently feeling so I can have the meeting? Like that is asking for the accommodation you need so that you can perceive a conversation.
Maybe we need to have like a meeting app where
Okay.
everybody at the beginning of the meeting, it's like, we do our state of being at the moment.
Right.
So everybody can assess that. And that's great if people are honest and that we have the space
Mm-hmm.
to be honest. That if I say
Right.
I'm pissy, I have the space to be pissy as long as I don't take it out on other people.
Right. Exactly. And that's the other thing is like having so going in, we're going to continue using this meeting analogy. Going in and having 20 minutes of free range conversation prior to a meeting is going to help 50% probably and destroy 50%. So now who's productive? Now what's happening? Where if we could just lift that up a little bit and give like a 10-minute like minimize that slightly so that okay, we're taking a little bit from the people who need zero conversation, but we're not taking everything they have.
Right.
And we're giving a little bit to the people who need a little bit. Like it needs to be a little more even keel with those things. And I had something else I was going to say because you said something and it made my brain go, oh, what the hell noise was that? Um, uh, we were talking about your user manual. We were talking about how people function. I think that a lot of the, I don't know how to say this without being slightly mean, and I'm not trying to be mean. So let me caveat this with I'm not trying to be mean, but I can't figure out the words to say what I'm trying to say. I think a lot of people have spent so many years never being accommodated. And then they like recognize with words, oh, I have XYZ. This is why I can't do this thing in meetings. And this is why I have this struggle. And oh, there's executive dysfunction here and blah, 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 blah. And so now they're like, I have words to ask for what I need. And I have the confidence to ask for what I need. And I'm asking and I'm getting. And now they feel so good getting those accommodations, having never, ever, ever had them, that I think that they're just like so scared to let go of that because if they let it slip a little, what if it doesn't come back?
Hmm.
And I guess as the person who is asking the people they normally accommodate to accommodate myself in my instance, I'm not trying to take away the accommodations that you get from me on a normal basis. What I'm asking is for this one moment in time. Let me refill all. Oh, you wanted to talk about matches. Let me refill all my spoons today so that we can have 3 weeks of me being able to accommodate. I'm talking in my personal experience. Usually, if I have one day of accommodation, I can accommodate others for a very extended period of time.
Right.
And like, can we do this one time? Because I understand you're scared to let go of your accommodations. I don't want to take them from you. I just need some myself this one moment.
Right.
Okay, you needed to talk about matches now that I brought up spoons.
Well, and I want to expand on what you're saying as far as needing, as far as feeling like something's going to get taken away. There there's a lot of conversation in the indie community right now of what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's putting us right into a binary again,
Mm-hmm.
instead of understanding that there's this whole spectrum that we have to
Yeah.
go through. And everybody has a place there, and everybody has needs there. And when you have two people in an interaction, they are both disabled, they both have needs, it can't it can often be whose needs are more necessary than the other person's. And I would like that to shift and say, how can both of these people get their needs met?
Mm-hmm.
Because they are able to support each other if both of them are getting their needs met. But when only one person is getting their needs met, then the other person gets to a point where they're no longer able to support, and then relationships break down, and it becomes a big deal. So
Mm-hmm.
that leads into the spoons. So there is this author, um, and their name is um, Sarah Johnson. And I will definitely share the link for this. They wrote this amazing article, and I would love to read the whole thing, but I'm not going to. Number one, because I don't have permission from them to do that. But they wrote matchstick theory. And in this, they're talking about the problem with the spoon theory. And here they say, suddenly the whole world thinks they know what it's like to be me. That's the problem with spoon theory. Except you don't. We all have these dickheads running around handing out spoons, embroidering them on samplers, and asking me in a condescending way, how are your spoons today? I've grown so tired of spoons, I've started eating my Lucky Charms with a fork. And then they go on to say, spoon theory is great, but that really doesn't give you the full aspect of what's going on. So
Mm-hmm.
introduce match theory. Guess what happens when you burn a match?
Goodbye.
It's gone. So it says, imagine waking up each morning with one fresh pack of matches. Get out of bed, strike a match, watch it burn. Will it burn long enough to make it down the hall to the bathroom most mornings? No, it will not. So you strike another match. See, I can get a lot of use out of a spoon. Most people can and do, but that's why the analogy doesn't work. So then they go on to say, sometimes you have a full pack of matches, but somebody has ripped off the striker. You're not going anywhere today because you can't light
Mm.
your matches.
Oh, that was last week.
And this is what we call a flare up. And
Mm.
then I know, right? They go on to say, then come the mornings where you wake up to the smell of sulfur. The last spark from last night's last match has landed on today's matches and incinerated them. You've done it again, held the match for too long. Let it burn down till your fingers blister. It's your best friend's wedding, and by God, you'll burn every last match down to ash to be there for her. I have, like, my body is seriously responding to this right now, and it did when I first read it. And I so love this because this is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
This is what happens is we we do. We do that, and we need to be able to say, I have this last match. I only have this one. I cannot, and I am not willing to spend this match on the thing that you want me to.
Right.
But when we say that, 9 times out of 10, people just hand us a new box of matches. But that doesn't work. Those aren't
No.
our matches. They don't belong to us. They don't provide us energy or warmth in any way, shape, or form. Somehow,
Right.
magically, those matches don't help us. And that's what we like. We need to understand that and help, because I often feel like the asshole.
Mhm.
Um, and the more serious I get into a work project, the more important a work project is. Um, I'm more than happy to do it and to work on it. And I am the one who has the skill to do that. And people are depending on me to do so. Awesome. These are the things that need to be in place for me to do that. Let's make that happen. Like, but
Right.
that directness just doesn't
So,
work. And as I have to say this, as I get further into the job that I am doing and
mhm.
it gets bigger, it's important to me as an ND person at the top of a company who is going to be having a lot of interactions with employees, volunteers, stakeholders, that I'm going to somehow hurt my company by hurting relationships with my directness. Even though these are people who should understand.
You're shitting on people.
I know. I know.
Sorry, I had to say
It's
that.
my responsibility to communicate my
Mhm.
needs
Yeah.
so that they are met up front, not in the moment when I'm already burnt out.
Correct. And so this actually leads into what you had said something earlier, and I was like, "Ooh, I got to say that." So one of the things that I indirectly do as a brand strategist who works with neurodivergent people is I help people process the fact that they're neurodivergent, not in a therapy way, not in a like diagnosing. Well, they accidentally find themselves needing to go get a diagnosis half the time, but people are attracted to what I say because I'm outside the box. It's so fun. And so people who are not known to be neurodivergent end up coming to me, and then like through working together, figure out the neurodivergent. So there's just a little bit of like, well, of course you're doing that because you probably struggle with these things too. Yes, I do. Oh, okay. Well, then let's figure out why. And I think a lot of times people are like, I just can't do lists. Not, I don't know why I made them a Valley girl, but whatever. I just can't do lists. And the truth is, they crave lists a lot of times.
Right.
And a lot of times it's not understanding how or why they need things that fuels this. I can't do that. I have ADHD. I can't do that. I'm autistic. I can't do this because I'm bipolar. I don't Tourette's, whatever.
Right.
Um, I just named like half the things both of us have. They were random. And where the real thing is, I would much rather people say in these moments of, I have this new diagnosis and I really don't understand why I do any of the things that I do. I know that in order to achieve the goals that I have, I need to be able to do these things, but I don't know how to do them and respect myself and my brain and respect those around me. Because that's really the question. That's the
Right.
actual scenario and the question that needs to be asked. And
Yep.
so one of the things that I do a lot is, okay, let's figure out why lists don't work for you. Well, they're not pink and blue or purple or whatever. I don't know. That we just watched
Pink and
Wednesday.
blue,
So
really?
we
Two of
watched
our least favorite colors.
we watched Wednesday, and my kiddo was like, "That's not Enid. She doesn't have pink and blue hair." So that was stuck in my head, because we watched 2 minutes of it, and Enid did not have pink and blue hair in that scene. Um, okay, purple and orange, whatever. I don't whatever. Um,
That's better.
color codes, right? I don't know why I don't even like those. Anyway, um, I can't do it because it's not color coded right. Then color code it. I can't do it because it's printed. It's in my handwriting and I can't handle my handwriting. Okay, then don't put it in your handwriting and type it out and print it out. I can't do it because it's on the computer. Then don't put it on the computer, put it on a list. on a piece of paper. I need the piece of paper to be 2 inches by 3.5 inches. Then make a fucking sticky note that's 2 inches by 3.5 inches. The point is
Create the sensory environment that you need for your success as you define it.
correct. There is no right way or wrong way to process the information, but we still have personal responsibility to ourselves to find ways that work for us. And if we need help, that might be talking with a partner or talking with a friend and going to them and being like, I need you to be real with me and tell me what you observe me doing that you think might be done a different way so that you can try something new.
Yep.
Most of the time, your friends probably have a lot of insight and they're just not telling you because they didn't want to make you feel bad. Not that they're judging you. I didn't mean it like they're judging you. It's just like, it's just something we do. Like everybody is taking in information at all times
Yeah.
and doing something with that information. And they might have some insight to you that you didn't think about because you're not connecting the dots that they're connecting.
Right, because seeing things from the outside is
Is
different than seeing things from the inside.
right.
We all know this. Yeah, and so for me, this conversation is coming from the triggering conversations of
Mhm.
the asshole CEO, the narcissist
Mm.
CEO. Um, that is the last thing that I ever want to be. And I'm one of those people where 9 times out of 10, when people first meet me, there are those few who are like, I just know that you're somebody who gets me, and I want to spend all of my time, effort, and energy getting to know you and talking to you. And awesome. But then there are the other like 8.7 times where people they do not like me because I'm standoffish or what's intimidating. Intimidating is the word. And that's, you know what, it's fine when it just affects me. When
Mhm.
it just affects me, that's great. But when it affects something that I really care about, it affects the other people in my life, it affects my business. Um, me meeting a donor for time number 1 and their first impression is this person's an asshole. That's not good. And I can't just up and cancel meetings because I'm having a hard day. Like I have a job to do.
Right. I I'm struggling right now because I've been on a lot of uh I've been getting a lot my For You page on TikTok a lot lately has been with Black neurodivergent creators calling out white neurodivergent creators and saying unmask not only your neurodivergence as you see fit, but please unmask your white privilege along with that, and how um, uh, as a neurodivergent person you might have acquired patterns that are inherently racist and bigoted and just
I mean, you can't
all the
argue with that.
phobics and isms because you've been around those things and blah, blah, blah. So I can't argue with
Can't
that.
argue with
But
it. Yep.
because that's been coming into my mind, that same thing with like, just don't be an asshat. Um, that was a very military phrase.
It's one of my
I,
favorite.
I mm-mm. uh, now you got me thinking of all the other ones that I know. Anyway, that where I'm coming from in my brain and you being like, I don't want to be an asshole because I'm direct and confident and all of these other things. That also just makes me feel like if you were not saying you have to be, but like in the confines of we're going with
If
privilege
I
and
were a
stuff, if
white
you're white,
cisgender
cisgendered,
heterosexual wealthy man in this position, I wouldn't even be considering that would be an issue. Yes,
no. And
correct.
so part of me is like, if they can't handle a confident, direct individual, because at this point, if they're partnering with an ND organization or corporation or anything, that shouldn't even be an issue. because they shouldn't be
Shouldn't.
assuming.
Shouldn't,
I know,
but it is.
now I'm shouldn't. And so I'm just, part of me is like, I get that it is something you are concerned about. I get why you're concerned about it, but fuck them. Like, essentially is where I'm at, because do you want, sorry, I'm kind of slightly in work mode at the moment because I'm like kind of like yes, I get like this at work. Why would you want to partner with a person or organization that perceives you in a role of responsibility or having a bad day as an asshole in the first place? And don't tell me because they have money, because you still wouldn't want their money if they were going to perceive things that way at all.
No, but there are plenty of ND individuals who, and okay, there are plenty of ND individuals who, the way their brain works, what they need is the opposite of what I need.
Yeah.
So I want to partner with them because they are a good allied organization. But this person, by me being direct, by me being just, this is the stuff that needs to get done, A, B, C, D. We don't have time for conversation. We can figure out a time to have conversation later, but the point of this meeting is A, B, C, D, and that's what we're going to focus on. That triggers RSD. It's a trauma trigger. It's, this is how I've been treated in every job that I've had by this narcissistic boss and this narcissistic boss. I have to be aware of that because that's what's happening right now. Like these are the conversations that are happening around neurodiversity and employment. And so I want to partner with them because we are on the same page.
Yes.
But still, being that direct person who oftentimes is, like, my executive function is affected by my sensory environment. Therefore, when I create my sensory environment, which I work from home, so I do, I am able to get a lot of shit done.
Yeah.
And people look at that and assume that you don't need anything else. Right? This is where these functioning labels don't frickin' work, and why we keep saying these don't work.
Right.
But even within our community, we still judge people based on what we see they are able to accomplish and able to do and able to produce. So, again, it's my responsibility to set things up in a way so that I am able to work in a capacity that I need while also respecting the needs of other people so that we can get stuff done that we want to get done for our community.
Right. And so going back to your example of like activating or triggering all of these things, I want to go back to the theme of the episode, which is, why can't I be accommodated too? So as long as your email is saying, I understand that some individuals have RSD, my brand of neurospicy, I'm quickly going through this. I'm not using, you don't use these real words, but like, my brand of neurospicy requires that I be direct and whatever. I do want to acknowledge that I understand that you will be doing these things. If you have trauma, I understand that maybe being direct could trigger some type of narcissistic relapse, blah, 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 blah. I understand all of these things and I can accommodate these things on a regular basis, but due to the fact and nature of this meeting, I need these things. At another meeting, I am happy to accommodate these other things. I am asking for this accommodation. And as long as you are being direct and accommodating those things within that, then you are not being an asshole.
Correct. Now, yes, I agree with you 100%. Now, what happens if the other person is, I'm really stressed out, I don't know. I'm really stressed out. I need, something that regulates my nervous system is just having a nice chat and really feeling like I'm connected, and I need that time. Then we have to reschedule.
Yeah.
Like, I understand you need that right now. I can't give you that. We need to reschedule. That needs to be the norm, that
Yes.
thing. And I guess
Because
that's the point of that, of this episode, is
yeah.
we need to change those norms to make things happen, or we need to say which one of us is able to accommodate this today,
Right.
honestly, truthfully. And if neither one of us are, we need to reschedule.
Yeah. And that's something I try and talk to people about in the capacity of what I do as that client experience designing situation. I realize we're talking a little bit about my work today, but this is very relevant to that. And is saying, okay, are a lot of your people ADHD people who have time blindness or non-ADHD people who have time blindness, whoever, if so, we need 5 emails leading up to the meeting to remind them to go to the meeting. Do you work with a lot of people who need to be in the right mindset for a meeting because it's intense and they need to have the right brain space? Okay, then the morning of that meeting, you need to say, is this a good brain day? Yes or no? If not, please reschedule. That's fine if it isn't. And have those conversations and be comfortable. And a lot of times I find that by doing that and having those spaces, people are like, oh, I can actually do this. This is a good day. Or no, this is not a good day. Let's reschedule for 2 weeks from now because I'm struggling. Like, this does need to be normalized, because by me accommodating them, I'm accommodating myself, because having them in a meeting where they cannot do the things that I need, I am annoying the shit out of myself.
Right. Banging your head against a wall, not able to do problem solving, not able to come up with solutions.
Right. And so I guess my point to all the things that you said, because now, speaking of time blindness, I swear it said 30 minutes.
I
a
know.
minute
I
ago.
just looked at the clock. I was like, seriously? 45 minutes?
What happened? I just kind of want to bring this around to, like, sometimes as the accommodators, us accommodating ourselves is building systems and accommodations for others and giving them an out, so that we don't burn ourselves out trying to not over accommodate. They do need the accommodations, but like overextend ourselves to accommodate them. Sometimes asking for accommodations is literally just asking for the accommodations. And if that might just be like laying on the couch, whatever that is to you. And if you are a person who normally needs a lot of accommodations on a regular basis, and you sometimes are like, well, why is so-and-so being an asshole today? I just kind of ask you to reframe that question into, geez, they seem really frustrated and upset today. What's going on? And take a moment to kind of look at it. If you are not a person that can help them with that situation, and somebody who is able to help, or maybe they just need alone time, as we've put, just reframing that stuff in your head as like, they might not be an asshole.
Do you need help, or do you need to be left alone?
Right.
Yeah.
Asking those questions. And then the third thing, I know we're going to, well, I guess third and fourth is like, let's get some more education out on the table for ourselves and for others about maybe having a user manual, so you can, without words, be like, look at this and just,
Maybe
this is
it's
me.
just like you have your LinkedIn and your website in your email. You've got your user manual right there, a link to it in your email every single time. And again, we will put the link to that in the resources area.
And if you have any questions, we hit so many things today, that if you have any questions, please reach out to us. We would love to answer them. And we will see you next week.
Absolutely. All those things. Thanks for listening to Drudgery, Dreams, and In Between, a weekly live podcast coming to you every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Pacific. If you're catching this live on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel for updates when we're back here next week. For all you podcast geeks, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. We're on them all. If you'd like to support the podcast, be sure to leave a rating and review and share with your friends. To catch all the latest from us, visit us at drudgeryanddreams.com and follow on your favorite social media platforms at Drudgery and Dreams. Thanks again. See you next time.